So I finished the 8th and final episode of Star Wars Scouting Crew, The Real Good Guys. Now, I will be talking about spoilers in this review, but if you like to avoid spoilers, I did release my spoiler-free review earlier today, so go check it out. It'll be linked in the description and in the cards. But first, let's do kind of a general recap of the episode and my general thoughts before we get too spoilery, even though that will be a part of this review, obviously. So, I thought the episode did a really good job at finishing it, except for one area, which that one area is more about me wanting to know more about the lore and the after effects of the events of the episode rather than the story itself. So basically, I'm being too much of a Star Wars fan. I'm getting hung up by the lore and not seeing the story. But at least I'm acknowledging that in myself. So, like I said, I think they did a really good job at finishing that story. I've mentioned this in my spoiler-free review, and I mentioned it in one of my previous reviews, but Scouting Crew has done a really good job on basically fulfilling Chekhov's guns. That being, if there's a gun or lightsaber shown in a scene mounted on the wall or something, it'll be used later on in the story. And that's something Scouting Crew has done a really good job. They even did that with a lightsaber too. But that's more of a minor thing with the lightsaber. But the point is every plot beat or something about it comes back later on in the episode in such a great way. Or not even just the episode, but the series as a whole. Let's go through a couple of them. So first though, we probably need to establish what happens, because if I just start talking about random plot beats, that won't make any sense. So basically the kids have been reunited with the parents, but Jude's playing it smart. He tells the safety droids to keep an eye on the kids because they're in trouble for violating the barrier and all that. Not acknowledging that he's in trouble. But he keeps Fern and her mother nearby, so he still has some leverage. But they go to meet the supervisor. And like I thought, the supervisor is a droid. And apparently the supervisor is not having the safety droids clean the supervisor's office at all. It's dusty and all that, but basically Jude identifies it's a droid, but the droid knows something that Jude doesn't. And this is actually some really bit of lore. So Jude describes himself as both an emissary of the Republic and a Jedi. But apparently the droid has had one transmission since the end of the Clone Wars. The droid knows that Order 66 happened, or at least as a Jedi are now considered traitors to the Republic. The droid still doesn't know about the Empire, which I find that very interesting. I do find that very interesting, and there's some interesting lore implications there, and I'll probably do a whole video talking about that. But, so the droid is suspecting some things off, so he asks Jude, so what are you lying about? Being a Jedi or being an emissary of the Republic or something along that? And then Fern reveals that Jude's neither and is just a pirate looking to cause trouble, and Jude destroys the supervisor. And though one thing about the supervisor is very much an authoritarian. That's how Attachment Society has been run for some time. Just want to throw that out there. But by destroying the supervisor, all the safety droids get shut down and power goes out. But of course, to save Fern's mother does agree to help Jude get his ship through the barrier rather than destroying the barrier, which is good. But that's one of the Chekhov's guns. That barrier could be totally destroyed, and that comes in. But eventually, the kids, Fern's not there, but Wim, KB, and Neel come with a plan to get to the ship, so that way they can get to orbit and call the New Republic, or the X-Wings for help. They don't really know about New Republic. So, there's a lot going on. They're running away from pirates. Neel at one point, his speeder, because everything's down except for their speeder bikes, but Neel's speeder gets destroyed in the school. But because of what happened in the previous episode at Akron, Neel knows that there is a turbo laser on top of the school. So he goes up there to activate it to distract the pirate ship, so that way Fern has a chance to fly the Oxender off. But of course, the Oxender is stuck, so that can't happen yet. So Wim and his father go to the supervisor's office, so that way Wim's father can re-engage the power, so that way this ship can get out. And during that time, off screen, KB starts working on repairs for SM-33, because once she's flying, she's getting the assistance of SM-33. Her mother's doing say, "How are you flying that?" And then we cut to SM-33. I do like that. I'm glad that SM33 is being repaired, though he needs a bit more work. He needs to be properly attached. I hope they get to that. They don't in the episode, but that's fine because that's not the point of the episode. The point of the episode in that regard is he's fine. But anyhow, KB gets to orbit and she sends a communication to Kim and lets her know that the pirates are attacking at Aten, sends her the correct coordinates, and Kim tells her that she'll get the X-Wing 0 right away, or the New Republic, because Kim actually knows the X-Wings are the New Republic, and so we just gotta wait. One, because they got to deactivate the barrier, because that's gonna be a problem for the X-Wings, because probably the stuff that is needed to get to the barrier has probably been long gone. Maybe it's somewhere in the Imperial archives, but there's no way the New Republic is going to know that stuff. I don't even think the Empire knows about that stuff. Because, again, the supervisor, we're still calling it the Republic. I don't think the supervisor knows about the Empires, which tells me a transmission was sent saying the Jedi were traitors, and then nothing. I have a theory on that. But again, that's going to be in a video I'm talking about the lore implications, because this is talking about the episode. But anyhow, so big confrontation with Wim and his father, and Fern and her mother against Jude. And Jude's using the Force and all that. We learn a little bit more about Jude. And what I think is definitive, I was thinking maybe he was a one-shot Padawan, but no. He's just some kid like Ezra Bridger, who a Jedi found sometime after the Purge, trained him a little bit in the Force before the Empire came and killed the Jedi. And then Jude was left with just basically what would happen if Kanan was killed after the first season of Star Wars Rebels with Ezra. In all honesty, there's some similarities here, and I think that's kind of intentional. What would have happened if Ezra got a little bit of training, but never had his training, by and large, finished? But that, we really learned about him. He's living on the streets, and he does acknowledge there's light in the galaxy, but he describes it as specks in the vast darkness, and that you have to do what you can to survive. So, he very much, well, I don't think he might be actually truly the closest thing we have to a Grey Jedi. I don't like the term Grey Jedi, but because he's willing to do bad stuff to survive, but doesn't seem like he wants to or knows enough to tap into the dark side of the Force, which is weird. But again, he's improperly trained, so he's just using it instinctually to survive in his own messed up mind. Because, like I said, I think there's good in him. He knows there's good in the galaxy, but he can't let his good out because otherwise it's going to lead him to not survive. But notice, he doesn't really want to kill anyone, and basically after there's a moment where I forget exactly which character it was, but no, he basically breaks down ranting about the state of the galaxy and how he doesn't want to cause anyone harm. This confirms there's good in him, but his own messed up life has convinced him that he can't act on his good if he wants to survive. Though, to note, he does not come down to Turbo with them, so he's still out there. Who knows, but he still has a chance for redemption because he knows what good is. He knows that, but he doesn't want to admit it himself or act on it, which is really interesting, really important to know about Jude's character. And I should also mention that the pirates do damage the Ankh Cinder, and it looks like it's crashed, but I figured since it wasn't a fireball or anything, KB managed to get at least a more gentle crash. And she does survive, thankfully, though everyone's convinced. And it was actually after that Jude, for lack of a better term, broke down, because now somebody that he grew kind of fond of got hooked. And I think that's, like I said, important to know about Jude. He never really wants to hurt the kids, no matter all his posturing he may have done. And the pirates, the New Republic arrives. They got a squadron of X-Wings and 2 B-Wings. And guess what these B-Wings have when they unleashed on the pirate ship? So if you remember the Star Wars Rebels episode where we have the earliest timeline, in the universe timeline depiction of the X-Wings, they have, or the prototype I should say, has this beam weapon that can basically one-shot ships. That's what they have, and I was like, oh cool! The fact that we got to see this, a call out to Star Wars Rebels. I mentioned some possible cinematic connections, but man, this was so great to see it. I just loved seeing that again in live action. And then of course all the kids unite. Of course their parents are like, get off from the ship, you don't want to get squished right after your adventures is over, which is like such a parent thing, but it's true. Long Cinder is not in the best condition. We don't get to see we do get to see SM33, and that worm-like creature that's been living in his eye, still fine as well. So all is well that ends well, pretty much. I should also mention that a CR-90 Corvette does come as well, so they got a lot of catching up to do, and that's where the episode ends. Pretty much. Did it end with that scene? Yeah, I think it might have. Or did it end with them reuniting as friends? Man, why am I messing up which way? But regardless, the episode's emotional end and actual end is basically with the adventure now being over. And we don't get to see the lower implications of all this, which frustrates me but not, because I know I shouldn't be frustrated by that. It's not the fault of the episode, because this show was never about the lore. Yes, we loved all the lore about At, and we made series videos. Lore about who Jude is and all that in the way and all that. We love that lore, but at the heart of it, this show was never about the lore. Skeleton Crew has always, from the get-go, been about our 4 kids. And Jude, of course. But we got Fern, KB, Wim, Neel, and Jude. Those are our 5 main characters. And it's just great. And the character development we have, let's go through each. We have Fern, who clearly is a bit rebellious and all that. We know that. But she learns a lot of responsibility in all this, which is just great. We have KB, who, well, I think is the one initially we didn't learn a lot about, but we learned that, she's basically handicapped. She can't do everything that Fern can do, and that, puts a hidden strain on their relationship that Fern, I don't think, picked up on, but KB was distinctly aware of. We have Neel, who, is perfectly fine living in comfort, never facing a threat or adventure, but eventually learning, I would say, maybe to be the bravest, because it's one thing to face danger when you're not afraid. It's another thing when you are totally afraid. When SM-33 goes haywire on at Akron, he is the one who throws the rock that gives him a chance to disable SM-33. Neel does that. This episode, he goes up and uses the turbo laser on top of the school to distract the pirates. And he was scared doing that. There's no doubt about that. But being so afraid and yet still doing what needs to be done in the moment is brave. Admitting your fear is also brave. Wim, he's been looking for adventure this entire time. And he's gotten his adventure. It was way more than he bargained for. He even had a moment when he was doubting it. But Fern's leadership convinced him that it was kind of good for them all. And I gotta say that I've seen a Wim. He's looking up at the X-Wing. Might have been actually after Fern said you don't have to take the test now. But I think Wim might be enamored by the New Republic, and he wants to help people. That kind of part of the reason why he was so enamored with the Jedi and the Jedi stories that he had on the holobook. Makes me wonder, is he going to now want to be an X-Wing pilot? Which means he could be fighting for the Resistance. It could happen. Is that probably the right age for growing up? Yeah, probably so. It's something I didn't consider before, but it's not impossible. But that's more of a lower implication thing. But now he has a new avenue where he could get his adventure, but also help people, because that was, I think, part of the reason why he wanted adventure. And Jude, unlike the kids, he doesn't really grow as a character. And that's part of him being the antagonist, the villain, the foil. He fulfills all 3 of those roles. It shows what the kids would be like if they don't grow up in some regards, fulfilling a role expected of them, which I think is part of what Jude's problem is. He sees himself in this dark galaxy with minor specks of light, but instead of trying to be one of those specks, he decides it's better to just accept the darkness, maybe not the dark side of the force, but the darkness and villainy of the galaxy, and try to survive the best he can in that. But within him is still that spark, that light of good. He just doesn't let it out. And which is a very important part of his character. He has that capacity. It's shown where he basically breaks down, complaining that someone finally got hurt when that was never his intention. And I don't think it's like the normal bad guy, I never meant to hurt anyone type speech. I think he's sincere. No, he's angry sincere, but I still think he's kind of sincere about that. He didn't want to hurt anyone, especially kids, because I think he saw a little bit of himself, and I don't think really wanted them to go down the same dark path that he found himself on. But he can't admit to himself that he wants to do a good thing. That's a very important part of his character. All of these characters are who we follow. And Jude being the follower, it means he can't grow. We can only learn more about him. Maybe in a season 2 we can learn more about him, but in season 1, he was to be the follower of the kids, a dark reflection of what they could be if they don't mature as a part of the adventure they want. Now, I mentioned lore implications a lot of times, and how this show didn't necessarily answer all the lore implications and what happens next. Like, I would have loved to see Fern's mother and the New Republic representative meeting and briefly just to kind of discuss what's going on in the galaxy. That would have been a great scene if this was a different kind of show. This show, that kind of scene would have not made sense. The kids don't need to know about that. They just need to know that the galaxy is a more dangerous place than they want, but there's still specks of light. And that specks of light thing is, I think, really important. They saw this speck of light and they took it. At had the darkest hours, but they decided to be the light, the speck of light in the dark on Aten, and called another speck of light in the great dark galaxy. Or should I say stars. The specks of light are the stars, and the vast darkness is a galaxy. This vastness and emptiness of space. Something to think about. And this makes me want to mention a quote from Qui-Gon Jinn. It might have been the book Master and Apprentice, and I hope I'm getting it right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but basically he states that he doesn't seek the light side of the Force because it gives him power or anything like that, but he seeks it because it is the light. It is good. And that's just what these kids learn in their lesson. Every place they went, and I think Fern mentions this to his mother. Everywhere they went, they saw specks of light. We have, you could say SM-33 was also expecting the light among all the pirates, because when given a loose, flimsy opportunity to turn on Jude in the last episode, SM-33 did. But we have that one, I'm going to call her a dancer, just to be a little more PG. She, saw these kids and let them know that that pirate base was not a safe place for them at all, and they need to get out of there ASAP. Kim is another one of those. At Akron, I forget her name, but the one who made friends with Neel, and Neel reminded that peace was still always an option. She was a speck of light. Every episode has always been a speck of light in some form. Some more than others, obviously, but always a speck of light, a speck of hope. And what's more Star Wars than hope? There's more I could say, there's more I haven't said, there's more I've stumbled over, I'm sure, in this review. But that's essentially my summary, my thoughts, everything in my review about not just this episode of Star Wars Scouting Crew, but the entire show as well. It's been this great and amazing journey where we're following a bunch of kids on an adventure as they grow up. They mentioned a lot Star Wars Scouting Crew had inspirations from a lot of Amblin Entertainment films. In fact, them riding on the speeder bikes, to try to get to Long Cinder, kind of reminded me a little bit of the kids on bicycles in E.T., which I still need to watch E.T. properly. But this time, they're joined by one of their parents. I don't think that happened in E.T. And also, too, when there's a scene where they make the jump over the gorge where they found the ship way back in episode 1, and Wim's father is nervous, but he trusts them by going full speed over it, and you can tell a little bit of his childhood re-emerged during that little bit of a scene there, which was just a great little bit right there. It's not a huge thing, but a little bit of a character there, which I really just love, showing that, yes, his inner child is still there. And he had kind of a mischievous grin too when he mentioned that he's a level 11 or level 7, I forget what his number was, tech or something like that, and he knows how to restore the power. He had like a little bit of a mischievous grin. It's just so fun to see those little moments here and there. But like I said, that Amblin Entertainment inspiration, 80s adventure films for kids, or featuring kids, were fingerprints all over here. Treasure Planet influences. Treasure Island is the original book, but Treasure Planet is a great one. So is Muppet Treasure Island for adaptations. But those stories, their adaptations, clearly has some impacts on here. Jude, like I said, very similar to Long John Silver. His pirate name is Captain Silver. I don't think that's a coincidence. And like Long John Silver, there's a speck of good to him, but his rough upbringing means he can't act on it. But he's still the kids that end up in his charge, he still grows a little bit fondness for, and while he uses them to his advantage, when it comes down to it, them getting hurt is a line that he's unable to cross. And while in Treasure Island, when Long John Silver, that line occurs with Jim, that causes a mutiny. With Jod, when he thinks KB has now been actually injured, he breaks down, and that gives our kids and the Fern and her mother and Wim and his father the chance to save the day. And yeah, it's just great how they took these influences, mixed them up in different ways, and produced this amazing product. Now, I've gone on for over 20 minutes now of rambling. I've probably cut some of it out, so if it's less than 21 minutes, 50 seconds, you know why. So yeah, there's a lot more to say, but you know what? Let's continue the discussion in the comment section down below. Is there something I mentioned that you disagree with, that you had a different take on? I would love to hear that. I would also love to hear your takes too, things I didn't notice that contributed maybe to some character or some plot. There's so much good stuff in here, so many things where they mentioned in previous episodes that they brought forward. I'm sure I missed something, but this has really been one of the best pieces of Star Wars media, shows, films to come out since the Disney acquisition. The only one that might actually be better than is Andor. It's either this or Andor for being my favorite and best made in my personal opinion. If you may have different opinions, of course, and that's what's great about Star Wars. We can have those different opinions. But what I asked, let's continue the discussion on Skeleton Crew. I'll probably have a video coming out where I'm talking about the lower implications of all of this, because there's a lot of it, but I'll save that for another video. But in the meantime, I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you always.